Dear Christopher, here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy. We have heard these words before. They were spoken at the beginning of each of the Season 8 through Season 12 episodes of Thomas and Friends, and in the opening sequence to The Adventure Begins. These words were written by Reverend Wilbert Awdry and came from his second story that he wrote about the famous #1 engine, Thomas the Tank Engine. According to research, the creation of Thomas himself was told in the following statement made by the Reverend Wilbert Allcroft himself. Having told stories about engines, we had to have models of them too. During the war years, materials were hard to get, but I managed to make out of odds and ends of wood a push-along model of Edward with coaches and trucks to match. I never got far as making Henry or Gordon, but I did make a tank engine which we called Thomas. Once we made Thomas, I had no peace until there were stories about him too. Based upon this statement and what we already know as fans, we can say that Edward the Blue engine was the first standard gauge engine to work on the island of Sodor for Sir Topham Hatt, followed by Thomas being the second, making these two engines the oldest out of the other standard gauge engines. But why is Edward number 2 and Thomas is number 1? Well, according to some more research, Thomas was the first character in the Railway series to have a number. According to Brian Sibley, the author of The Thomas the Tank Engine Man, The Life of Reverend W. Awdry, Reverend Wilbert Awdry used the number 1 because it was the easiest to draw. Thomas the Tank Engine would soon be brought to life thanks to the talents of Britt Allcroft, David Mitton, Ringo Starr, Mike O'Donnell, and Junior Campbell. Together, they brought him to the United Kingdom as a TV show known as Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, which first aired in 1984. As a way to bring Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends to the United States, Britt Allcroft had to meet the stricter broadcasting schedules, which was to create a 30-minute program to go with the 5.5-minute episodes. Thus, Britt Allcroft created Shining Time Station to meet the schedule, and Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends successfully came to the United States in 1989. To celebrate 75 years of the Railway series, more than 35 years of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends in the United Kingdom, and more than 30 years in the United States, this quadruple redub will be based around Thomas's episodes that were based around Reverend Wilbert Awdry's second book, Thomas the Tank Engine. This is Thomas and Gordon, Thomas's Train, Thomas and the Trucks, and Thomas and the Breakdown Train.
Thomas is a tank engine who lives at the big
hello,
station
everyone.
on the island of Sodor. He's a cheeky little engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler and a short stumpy dome. He's a fussy little engine too, always pulling coaches about ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. And when trains come in, he pulls the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. Thomas thinks no engine works as hard as he does. He loves playing tricks on them, including Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all.
I'm proud to be the fastest engine on the Northwestern Railway.
Thomas likes to tease Gordon with his whistle.
Wake up, lazy bones! Why don't you work hard like me?
One day after pulling the big express, Gordon had arrived back at the sidings, very tired. He was just going to sleep when Thomas came up in his cheeky way.
Wake up, lazy bones! Do some hard work for a change! You can't catch me!
And off Thomas ran laughing.
Thomas!
Instead of going to sleep again, Gordon thought how he can get back at Thomas for teasing him.
I'll think of something to pay Thomas out. I have an idea.
One morning, Thomas wouldn't wake up. His driver and fireman couldn't make him start. His fire went out, but there was not enough steam. It was nearly time for the express. People are waiting, but the coaches weren't ready. At last, Thomas started.
Right, come along. Let's fetch our train.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Thomas fussed into the station where Gordon was waiting.
Hurry up, you!
Hurry up yourself, fat face.
Gordon, the proud engine, began making his plan to teach Thomas a lesson for teasing him.
Yes, I will.
And almost before the coaches had stopped moving, Gordon reversed and quickly was coupled to the train.
Get in quickly, please.
Thomas usually pushed behind the big trains to help them start, but he was always
Gordon,
uncoupled first.
I'm still back here.
This time Gordon
want to
started
stop and
so
uncouple
quickly
me.
they forgot to uncouple Thomas. Gordon's chance had come.
Come on, Thomas, keep up. Come on, come on.
The train went faster and faster. Too fast for Thomas. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't.
Peep, peep! Stop! Stop!
Hurry, hurry, hurry!
You can't get away! You can't get away!
Poor Thomas was going faster than he had ever gone before. He was out of breath, and his wheels hurt him, but he had to go on.
I shall never be the same engine again! God, let this torture end!
Express coming through!
At last, they stopped at the station.
I don't feel so good.
Oh yes, right on time, as always.
My, Gordon, that was record time.
Thomas was uncoupled, and he now felt very silly and exhausted. Next he went on to a turntable, thinking of everyone laughing at him. And then he ran onto a siding, out of the way.
Well, little Thomas, now you know what hard work feels like, don't you?
Poor Thomas couldn't answer. He had no breath, and he just puffed slowly away to rest and had a long, long drink.
I'm sorry, Thomas. Here, have a drink.
He went home very slowly and was careful afterwards never to be cheeky to Gordon ever again.
Note to self. Be more careful when playing a trick on Gordon.
The next day, back at Knapford Station, Thomas was grumbling to the other engine.
I spend my time pulling and pushing trucks and coaches about for you to take on journeys.
The other engines laughed.
Why can't I pull passenger trains too?
You're too impatient, little Thomas. You're sure to leave something behind.
Rubbish! I'll show you.
One night, he and Henry were alone. Henry was feeling very poorly. The men worked hard, but Henry just wouldn't get better.
Oh dear, poor Henry.
He felt just as bad the next morning. Henry usually pulled the first train, and Thomas had to get his coaches ready.
If Henry is ill, then perhaps I could pull his train.
Thomas ran to find the coaches.
Come along, come along!
There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time.
Thomas took the coaches to the platform and wanted to run round in front at once, but his driver wouldn't let him.
Don't be impatient.
Thomas waited and waited. The people got in, the guard and station master walked up and down, the porter banged the doors, and still Henry didn't come. Thomas got more and more excited. Sir Topham Hatt came to see what was the matter, and the guard and the station master told him about Henry.
Find another engine.
There's only Thomas.
You'll have to do it then, Thomas. But be quick now. The passengers must not be kept waiting.
Yes, sir! Oh
So
boy, oh
Thomas
boy, oh boy.
ran
I
round to the
can't wait
front
to pull
and
my
back
first
down
ever
onto the
passenger
coaches
train.
ready to start.
We will wait until everything is ready.
But Thomas was too excited to listen. What happened then? No one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train. Or perhaps
Thomas,
the driver
pick up the
pulled the
coaches,
lever by
come back
mistake.
here.
Anyhow, Thomas started without his coaches. As he passed the first signal box, men waved and shouted.
They must be waiting because they think I'm such a splendid engine.
But he didn't stop.
How do I sound like James? Henry says it's hard to pull trains, but I think it's easy. Hurry, hurry, hurry!
Thomas pretended to be like Gordon.
People have never seen me pull a train before. It's nice of them to wave.
Thomas whistled.
Peep, peep! Thank you!
Then he came to a signal at danger.
Bother! I've gotta stop! And I was going so nicely too!
Thomas blew an angry peep peep on his whistle. The signal man ran
Hello,
up.
Thomas. What are you doing here?
Can't you see? I'm pulling my first passenger train!
Where are your coaches then?
What do you mean,
Thomas
where are my
looked back.
Why, bless me! If we hadn't left them behind.
Yes, you better go quickly and fetch them.
Poor Thomas was so sad he nearly cried.
Cheer up. Let's try again.
Back at the station, all the passengers were talking at once.
sorry, we
They were
will
telling
find
Sir
an
Topham Hatt what a bad railway it was. But when Thomas came back, they saw how sad he was.
Wait
and
till
couldn't be
everything is
cross.
ready.
He was coupled to the train, and this time
Now
he
we're
really
ready,
pulled
Thomas.
Lesson learned. Be patient and make sure you don't leave anything behind. I'll certainly remember that for next time.
But for a long time afterwards, the other engines laughed at Thomas and said,
Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a train, but forgot about the coaches.
But Thomas has already learned not to make the same mistake again. Later that evening, Thomas the Tank Engine wouldn't stop being a nuisance. Night after night, he kept the other engines awake.
Big engine sleep.
I'm tired of pushing and pulling coaches. I want to see the world.
The other engines didn't take much notice, but Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But the next evening, Edward came to the shed. He was a very kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas.
I've got trucks to take home tomorrow. If you take them instead of me, I'll push coaches in the yard.
Really? Oh, thank you, Edward. That will be a nice change.
The next morning, Edward and Thomas asked their drivers, and when they said yes,
Why not?
Thomas
It
ran
would
off
be a nice
happily to
change.
find trucks.
Come on, Thomas. Let's go fetch your trucks.
Now, trucks are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. And I'm sorry to say they play tricks on an engine who is not
Come
used
along,
to
you
them.
silly trucks.
Edward
Don't have
knew
all
all
day.
about trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. the shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle, and Thomas started off. But the trucks weren't ready.
Oh! Wait, Thomas, wait!
But Thomas wouldn't wait.
Come on, get a move on, will you?
All right, don't fuss. All right, don't fuss.
Thomas began going faster and faster.
Whee!
As Thomas rushed through Henry's tunnel.
Hurry!
Thomas was feeling very pleased with himself, but the trucks grew crosser and crosser. At last, Thomas slowed down as he came to Gordon's Hill.
Come on, driver! Full steam ahead! We've got to get up this hill, or else we'll end up like Gordon did.
Steady now, steady.
Thomas began to put on the brakes.
We're stopping!
No!
And the trucks bumped into each other.
Go on!
Before the driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill.
Wait,
and they
what?
were rattling
Wait,
and laughing
no,
behind
wait,
him.
stop!
Poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast.
Stop pushing!
But the trucks took no notice.
Go on!
Oh boy. Thomas, slow down!
There's the station! Oh dear, what should I do?
Thomas rattled straight through and
Whoa!
swerved into a goods yard.
No!
Thomas shut his eyes. When he opened his eyes, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers.
That was close.
Phew, that was a relief.
There watching him was Sir Topham Hatt.
What are you doing here, Thomas?
Oh, sir, I was bringing Edward's truck, sir. I swear.
Why did you come so fast down Gordon's Hill?
I didn't mean to come in so fast. The trucks were pushing me.
You've got a lot to learn about freight cars, Thomas. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you will know almost as much about them as Edward. Then, you will be a really useful engine.
Yes, sir. I understand, sir.
I will have a word with Edward about how this all happened.
And Thomas puffed sadly away.
Maybe taking these trucks wasn't such a good idea.
Why didn't I listen to Edward's advice? I do need to be more careful around trucks from now on.
The next morning, back at the yard, Sir Topham Hatt came to the station to catch his train.
Hello. Don't let the silly freight cars tease you, Thomas. Remember, you have an important job as a special helper in the train yard.
Yes, sir. I won't let you down, sir.
There were lots of trucks, and Thomas worked very hard pushing and pulling them into place. There was also a small coach and two strange things his driver called cranes.
Hey, driver. What are those strange things in the siding right there?
That's the breakdown train. The crane is intended to lift heavy things such as engines, coaches, and trucks.
One day Thomas was in the yard. Suddenly he heard an engine whistling.
Help! Help!
A goods train came rushing through much too fast. The new engine was James, and he was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire.
They're pushing me! They're pushing me!
Help! Faster!
And poor James disappeared along the line.
Oh, I ought to teach those trucks a lesson or two.
Soon came the alarm.
James is off the line. The breakdown train, quickly!
Thomas was coupled onto the breakdown train, and off they went. Thomas worked his hardest.
Hurry! We have to help James!
But this time, he wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it.
Oh, bother those trucks! I sure hope James isn't hurt.
James's driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt.
What a bad day this is for me.
Never mind, James. It was those silly freight cars and your old wooden brakes that caused the accidents.
Don't worry, James. We're here to help you.
Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled the unhurt trucks out of the way.
Oh dear! Oh dear! This'll serve you right for what you've done to my friend.
Thomas was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all afternoon.
This ought to teach you a lesson, you stupid trucks! Oof!
Yes, it will! Yes, it will!
They left the broken trucks, and then with 2 cranes they put James back on the rail.
Right, that's it. Easy does it. Try not to hurt him even more. And there!
James tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed.
Don't worry, James. I'll help you back to the yard.
Sir Topham Hatt was waiting anxiously for them.
Well done, Thomas. I heard all about it, and I'm very pleased with you. You are a really useful engine. James shall have some proper brakes and a new coat of paint. And you will have a branch line all to yourself, Thomas.
Oh, thank you, sir! Thank you, thank you, thank you!
Now Thomas is as happy as can be. He has a branch line and 2 coaches called Annie and Clarabelle. He puffs proudly backwards and forwards with them all day.
Wow! This branch line is amazing!
But Thomas was never lonely. Edward and Henry stopped quite often to tell him the news. Gordon is always in a hurry, but he never forgets to say boop boop, and Thomas always whistles beep beep in return. And that's how Thomas became a really useful engine and had his very own branch line. Hope you enjoyed the story. Goodbye, everyone.
Reach for the wind, reach for the whistle, go where the rail may run. Reach for the song, reach for the story, follow the rainbow sun. To a shining time station where dreams can come true, waiting there for you. So much to see, so far to travel, so much to learn to know. Friends by your side, hopes to hold on to, who knows how far we'll go. To a shining time station where dreams can come true. Your own imagination's waiting there.